Hello again, fellow YouTubers. I'm just adjusting the camera. So I'm Pleasant from Team O.M.G Vanguard, back with another Card Fight Vanguard clan review analysis thing. And today we have Narukami, one of my more liked clans. This is going to be a fun review. I'm going to enjoy this, because it's got some of the most ridiculous stuff. So, let's get right into it. Now, again, a lot of people say Narukami ripped off KAGERO with the whole blowing up units thing. And we'll get into that, but I've already kind of discussed KAGERO's thing, so let's just talk about Narukami. Narukami's main goal: blow up the field with everything. Destroy everything. Leave nothing standing. Now, granted, this really came out around Season 3 when Eradicators were a thing, but Narukami's real big goal was just attack a bunch of things at once, or just blow up things so that your opponent is pretty much decimated field-wise. Their hand may or may not be affected, but their field will be wrecked. Narukami, in a sense, is like a nuke. Nuke it, nuke it, nuke it, nuke it every turn. Just keep blowing stuff up. So, let's just get into the history. Now, granted, Narukami is actually the only clan from the Dragon Empire that actually came out around Season 2. You could say Murakumo, but honestly, Murakumo was more Season 1. And Kai originally was using Narukami because KAGEROs were gone. And then Season 3, he was actually still using Narukami until he switched to Lynx, and then back to KAGERO. And actually, we had Naoki using mostly Eradicators, and then we see him using Brawlers in Season 4. And then Season 5, we kind of just see a glimpse of Narukami's, but we don't talk about Season 5. We'll get into why Naoki's Narukamis are far better than Kai's Narukamis in every way. We'll get into that. But first, we're going to talk about some of the big decks, and I'm going to love actually talking about Brawlers, surprisingly. But we'll get into them in a minute. So, first I'm going to talk about Vermillion and Dungaree really quick. I'm going to focus more on Vermillion because, honestly, Dungaree's never really been much of a deck, but I will still talk about Dungaree. Now, Vermillion's idea was simple. Oh yeah, that's right, Darky Regs have a Vermillion. Basically, Vermillion's idea was attack the front row at once. Now, this is where the big debate of Narukami versus KAGERO really starts, because you have to wonder, Overlord, Vermillion, both have Counterblast 3. Both can blow up the front row, essentially. The difference is Vermillion guarantees that he's going to attack the front row. Overlord cannot actually guarantee that. Does that make him bad? Vermillion does get, like, normal Vermillion gets like +3, whereas Overlord gets +5. Both are 11Ks, both only really work on Vanguard, both have a Counterblast of 3, so it's kind of costly. And I think the one reason why I personally feel that Narukami's are a little bit better is because, especially with the Overlord and Vermillion bait, is because Vermillion actually doesn't need to stand back up. He's already attacking the front row. And granted, he's not stacking up crit, but with Overlord, normal Overlord at least, if you're attacking a rear guard, if you P-guard it, that's it. You pretty much have the mindset of, if you're fighting normal Overlord, which is never going to happen, so this is just for those who are playing for funsies, whenever fighting normal Overlord, assume he's attacking the Vanguard, except he's attacking a rear guard. Because he's still going to do his drive check, and he's still going to stand back up. So the instant you P-guard that, he can't stand back up, and that combo is shut down. Vermillion doesn't care, because he's just attacking the front row regardless. So you can P-guard your Vanguard, or you can P-guard a rear guard, but your Vanguard and other rear guard are still going to get hit. It is going to happen. And it's more absolute. And then we get into the End versus the Blood. The End is a little bit less cost-effective. The Blood is incredibly costly. Like Counterblast 3 at a Mega Break of 5, at least the End doesn't need to Mega Break in order to use his ability to stand back up. Granted, he has to hit, and I think that's the difference. The Blood and the End both aren't that good, but when it comes to Vermillion versus Overlord, Vermillion just does it better because he doesn't need to hit. He gets to attack regardless. In order for Overlord to continuously use his deadly combo, he needs to hit. And with P-guards being a staple in Vanguard, that always isn't going to be guaranteed. Vermillion is far more guaranteed, and that's why I feel Vermillion is better. Is Overlord still good? He's Jesus, so yes, but I just personally feel that Vermillion is better based on the fact that he can attack the front row without needing to stand back up and without needing to hit in order to stand back up. Sure, he doesn't have that ability to drive check twice, but he's attacking the front row. That's better than just a 50-50 chance of standing back up and doing 4 drive checks in the 50-50 chance my opponent doesn't guard. So, there's that. But the Vermillion deck was mainly focused on having Vermillion hit the front row and then having the rear guard just kind of stand there and be like, okay, Vermillion, you take care of it. And that's where the whole idea of just punching the field started, but we will get into that when we talk about Brawlers. We're going to just derail for a second and talk about the Dungaree deck, because it is a deck and it should be talked about. So, Dungaree. What was Dungaree's idea? Dungaree also took binding and kind of used it as his own little thing. Problem is, it didn't really work out the best. See, Dungaree's idea is, if I have stuff in the bind zone, I can essentially do some stuff. If I don't have stuff in the bind zone, I get weaker. Which, it's a way to play, but that's not really how you should really be utilizing binding. Now, the rest of the deck is actually really interesting with his support units. Like, the support units that Dungaree has, and just the... Dungaree really, like, has a deck focused around the Exorcist mages, which seem to have this idea of getting rid of continuous effects. So, much like Dungaree's lose -2000, the mages would basically be like, hey, you don't have that skill, so even if you don't have stuff in the bind zone, you can still have an 11k power, which is an interesting concept, and when done with the right cards, could be an interesting idea, but the problem is a lot of continuous effects nowadays are usually good, for one, so why would I get rid of those? And 2, the Exorcist mages weren't that strong to begin with. And again, most of the continuous effects being gotten rid of, like, if they weren't there to begin with, then the deck wouldn't even be a thing. So, Dungaree has never really been a strong deck. It's usually been a deck that people have just kind of tested around with to see what it can do. And it can work, it just doesn't work well. As opposed to other Narukami decks that can just fight so much better and just play so much better to the Narukami playstyle. It's a nice idea, but ultimately it doesn't yield many results. And now we move on to Eradicators in Season 3. This is where things get fun. And this is where a lot of KAGERO players are like, okay, now you're really just taken from KAGERO. And Eradicators are just like, oh, okay, you can blow up like 1 or 2 units with a Counterblast of 3 or something. Hey, Counterblast 1, we nuked some things. Or hey, we get power from blowing stuff up. Eradicators really brought Narukami into the mindset of blow things up and destroy the field in order to get power. Like, there's Descendant right there. Descendant was an awesome restander, getting a crit if he didn't hit. Again, Eradicators mostly have the mindset of nuke, 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 nuke by counterblast. And then, once you combo that with cards that basically get power from having nuked the field, you can then essentially form a very more offensive field with a lot more power, so that your opponent needs to guard with more. Now, most of the Eradicator decks are an interesting thing, because you can really run them almost any way you want with any real grade 3s you want. Because they have 3 break rides, 2 in America, being Vowing and Ignition. Ignition requiring a counterblast to blow up 3, Vowing having no counterblast to blow up 1. And then you have units that basically just bank off that. So you have Descendant, which basically gets that power from the break ride, and then when he doesn't hit, stands back up with a crit. You have Electric Sharpener is in America, so I'm not really going to talk about him. You have Gauntlet, which gets a crit for each unit blown up, so Ignition that, hey, I'm at 4 crit, and +3 for each, so that becomes pretty awesome. I can't remember what Sparkhorn did. Sweep Commander was one that not a lot of people really looked into, but I think he did some stuff with Soul Blasting in order to blow some stuff up and then get some power out of that. Tempest Bolt was pretty much just the giant nuke of Eradicators. Tempest Bolt had this idea of, hey, I'll just blow up everything and then I'll just do it, which is very Vermillion-esque in a way. And then you have Eradicator, Vowing Saber Dragon Reverse, which I've already kind of talked about, but in general, just lock, blow up until your opponent either you and your opponent have nothing left, but you get it at the end of the turn, so it's fine. And again, you can really mix and match Eradicators into a way that you like. Eradicators are a very diverse archetype, which is more than I can say for a lot of other archetypes. Perditions, you can really only run them with 2 grade 3s, Overlord and the one that looks like Vortex Dragon. That's pretty much it. Or, you know, Shadow Paladins, you really run Revengers with Drag Ruler and Raging, as well as the Break Rod, that's about it. Eradicators, you can mix and match to however your playstyle really benefits you. If you like a playstyle that's very dependent on hitting, you can go more Descendant. If you have a playstyle that's more on nuking, you can go with Tempest or Reverse. If you have a playstyle that's more focused on crit as opposed to power, you can go with Gauntlet. You can mix and match them into a way where you can pretty much make a toolbox or a Swiss Army knife of any sort of situations, and you can use certain Narukami units of Eradicators for any real given situation. So Narukamis are very diverse in that. The Eradicators are very diverse in that way. And also one thing I like to point out, Vermillion got a grade 2 Legion. Or no, one thing I like to point out with the Vermillion Overlord debate. Overlord got a grade 2 Legion, and then later got a grade 3 Legion. Vermillion just got a grade 3 Legion that says, hey, I can do this, attack the front row for free. Yeah, he can do that, so thanks, Dragonic Vanquisher. Thank you. And now let's talk about Brawlers, or more specifically, I'm just going to go with the Big Bang, because that's where really the heart of the Brawler is. I would just talk about Brawlers, but Brawlers in general kind of go back to the Season 2 version of Narukami and seem to have this idea of, let's get power and then use that power to punch, and being aggressive in that way. And then we have units that say blow stuff up and get power, so Brawlers are kind of a mix between Season 2 and Season 3 Narukami. And then we get Big Bangs. As much as I hate Legion, as much as I hate it, like, aside from Grand Blue Legion, I think is, like, relatively decent. Angel Feather Legion is actually pretty decent to good and isn't, like, awful. Trying to think what other Legion I actually don't hate. And Brawlers. Like, good God. Like, when these first came out, I thought this was Vermillion's replacement, because Brawlers seem to have this idea of, hey, let's attack the front row. And then they got bigger. Like, I'm just gonna kinda... So, the first Brawler that we had, which, when I read the skill, you're being like, yeah, that's pretty Vermillion. Legion, and then Counterblast 2 cards with Brawler in its name. When this unit is Legion, so when this unit is in Legion, until the end of the turn, it gets +5, and the continuous ability of this unit battles all of your opponent's units in the front row in one attack. And also Soul Blast 1 of get +3. So this was very Vermillion-esque in the idea of, hey, let's just punch the front row. Except where Vermillion had a, like, 14-some base, or 13-some base. This one has a 20-some base. And then Vermillion got his Legion to get a 21 base, so Vermillion just upped you there, Big Bang Knuckle. And granted, Big Bang Knuckle didn't know he was going to get one-upped, but he knew he had to evolve. So he did into Big Bang Knuckle Burster, which is a very, very interesting card, to say the least. What Big Bang Knuckle Buster does is it has this mindset of, hey, after we Legion, let's Counterblast 1, choose a card with Big Bang Knuckle in its name from our hand, let's put it into the soul, and when this unit is in Legion, until the end of the turn, we get +5 and the continuous ability of, when this unit would choose a unit to attack, choose 4 of your opponent's units instead, and this unit battles those chosen units in one attack. 4 units! And has a cross-ride ability, so I was vastly pleased with this idea of, hey, let's have a cross ride in Legion. So we're essentially a 22,000 hitter on 4 different units. Almost the entire field. Which is pretty awesome. That is incredible. And it really just banks on you doing the Legion. It really doesn't care what you Legion back, I guess, because you're just gonna be like, hey, let's just sit like this the rest of the game and punch everything. Because there's really just a counterblast for it, which you can do a couple times. And I didn't think it could get any better. But it did. True Brawler, Big Bang Knuckle Turbo. Because we need to one-up ourselves each time. Like, despite all the crap I give Bushiroad, when they want to one-up themselves on something, they usually do it. Except for Dragonic Overlord, screw him. Big Bang Knuckle Turbo is the stride unit. So basically what you would do is stride on top of your Legion, and then this would happen. So, let's say you stride. You counterblast 1, soul blast 1. And choose a face down card from your G zone and turn it face up, so face up. And if you have a heart of Big Bang Knuckle in its name, until the end of the turn, you get this continuous ability of on Vanguard. When this unit would choose a unit to attack, choose up to 3 of your opponent's units for each of your heart cards instead, and this unit battles all of the chosen units and 1 attack, and this unit gets plus 5,000 power for each face-up True Brawler Big Bang Knuckle Turbo in the G-Zone. So, I Legion, and then next turn, I attack the entire field. That is freaking amazing! Like, my god, that is awesome! That is freaking unbelievable! I attack the whole bloody field! Like, my opponent can guard all they want on the Vanguard. Guess what? I'm attacking your field! I Legion, next turn, guess what? I'm attacking your field! You only need to Legion, like, once or Legion once, hey, attack your front row. Oh, okay. Next turn, I Legion again. I attack 4 of your units. Oh, well, that's getting a bit more scary. I stride! I'm attacking your field! I'm incredibly just amazed by this card. It's unbelievable how amazing this is. It's unbelievable. And it says once per turn. Oh, so what? I'm only going to attack once anyway. The whole field! Like, this right here almost counters the fact that Bushiroad tries to overcompensate with Dragonic Overlord. This almost counters. Like, you almost got me, Bushiroad. That's like 98% almost got me. Oh, God. Like, I'm definitely showing this to some people later. They're gonna love this, I can tell. So, BRB is... Okay, so how do you want to run Narukami per se, trigger-wise? And I'm just going to talk about some honorable units that should be mentioned. Really, you can run it however you want. Like, Grant Critical is going to be an obvious, but honestly, you can run Draw and Stand in it just fine. You can run that just fine, and you can be like, yep, I just run this, and it'll be fine. As for P-cards, like, 3 is probably a solid number. Like, I know most of them go from 2 to 4, but for Narukami, like, 3 is a pretty solid number. Like, run 4 only if you're incredibly defensive, but 3 is a pretty solid number for these guys. So, talking about some stuff that isn't necessarily related to Eradicators or Brawlers or anything like that, which that card is still amazing. This 0 is what I want to talk about. Deity Sealing Kid Soko. What he does is he has the continuous ability of Restraint. This unit can attack, which for 6,000 grade 0, that kind of makes sense. And this unit cannot boost a rear guard. So, this is pretty much a unit that says, hey, I'm a 6k booster for your Vanguard. And it's a very interesting unit. And granted, you can run it with the Dungaree collection and therefore remove that continuous Restraint. And that continuous, this unit cannot boost a rear guard, and basically make it a 6k booster for free. So I find that to be just a very interesting card to be mentioned. So as for grade 1s, as I was looking through them, like, there was one that kind of always stuck out to me, and that would be Desert Gunner Rayan. Now, Rayan has been a good staple for any Season 2 deck, and heck, even maybe some, like, early Season 3 Eradicator decks, because he has a very nice ability. And that's whenever he's placed on Vanguard or Rearguard, he has the ability to make your opponents not be able to intercept. Grant, you can only choose one of the units to not intercept, but you can still restrict intercepting, which, for the time, was actually a very interesting strategy and a very interesting mechanic to use. And he's always been a card that a lot of people have always used, and therefore I just kind of wanted to bring him up. Like, these aren't, like, the best of cards, because I just showed you, like, the most amazing stride unit ever, but... oh god, I'm super hyped about that one. Like, despite all my ranting of Legion, like... it's ridiculous. Moving on to grade 2s. A good grade 2 that I noticed with a lot of Eradicator decks that I thought was very interesting was this one being... what's your name? Fiendish Sword Eradicator Shoho, which he got a grade 3 counterpart, but grade 2 counterpart is much better because he basically says, choose another rearguard with Eradicator its name, put it in the soul, and when this unit is placed on Vanguard or rearguard, if you have Narukami Vanguard, you can pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's rearguards, the front row, blow it up. So, I put something in the soul, which may be useful for some certain given situations. Maybe I wrote Devouring Reverse already, and I have a Vowing on rearguard. I can just be like, hey, pop. Granted, I don't really use this guy because he was double rare and he was kind of expensive for a while, and also, he really doesn't work as much now, but he was very interesting for the time. He was able to get you some soul and blow up stuff at the same time, making him very effective in multiple ways. And now, speaking of ridiculous grade 3s, this guy was super ridiculous when he first came out, and he just needs to be witnessed. And that's our first grade 3 on the chart, too. Armor Breaker Dragon. Or Armor Break Dragon, for those who are not cultured. God, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. When he shows up, there we go, Armor Break Dragon. The card that Tetsu said in the anime was like a championship-worthy card, and was a tournament winner. Yeah! Good call on that one, Tetsu! You were super right! Oh, God. Alright, what does his Limit Break do? He has the Limit Break ability of Counterblast 3, this is off to a good start. Choose 3 cards from your hand, discard them, even better. Retire all rearguards in each fighter's front row, and this unit gets plus 10 to crit until the end of the turn. Oh, God. First off, this actually can work if, you have an empty front row before, and then you use this skill and then call it out. Then it's pretty effective, because not only do you blow up the front row, but you also get plus 10 to crit, which 2 crit is kind of ridiculous, but you really want to use this card if you know your opponent doesn't have a P-guard, because the instant you use this and your opponent has P-guard, you're screwed, because you pretty much used up all your resources for this. This was such a ridiculous card, because of how much he gained for he was a huge cost for a huge gain, and it was just ridiculous. Because a lot of cards have huge cost for huge gain, but this one was just kind of ridiculous on how it's just like, blow up the front row. And it will also be funny then when we take this and then we see Tempest out of it, when Tempest is just like, nuke the field! All of it's gone! BTW, Tempest is MVP of team tournaments. Just gonna throw that out there. But Armor Break was such a ridiculous card at the time, and he's still kind of remembered. So overall, where is Narukami? It's right, like, it is really high mid to top tier. Like, Narukami easily can be top tier. Easily. Like, Eradicators are an amazing archetype, and they can just easily be top tier. Why I say they can sometimes be mid-tier is because there are other clans like Shadows, Kageros, and Golds that easily outshine them, or even Lynx. Because Kagero isn't going to be like the most broken clan, Brawlers, but they aren't like the most ridiculous. Except for Brawlers, Brawlers are just pure insanity, but they're just kind of like, they aren't like the absolute top tier, but they are pretty darn close. Like, I think once that new Brawler unit kind of gets in, like, it's gonna be top tier. Like, they are a clan that can easily be top tier. Very, very easily. Like, it's almost not even, like, worth saying that, like, because there is no way they're gonna stay mid-tier. And I think the only reason they're mid-tier now is because of the fact that not that many people use them as much as KAGERO, Golds, Lynx, or insert other clan here. But they're still there. Like, Narukami's I can always see as being like the 4th most popular, above KAGERO's, Golds, and Lynx. And maybe sometimes Royals, but... Oh yeah, and Shadows. So, Shadows, KAGERO's, Golds, and Lynx. And then Narukami's usually going to take that 5th place. Usually. But they're still a really, really awesome clan. And at least they have something... At least they don't have a unit that keeps coming back and is treated as Jesus. KAGERO. So... Overall, they're a really awesome clan, I'm not gonna lie. They're my first clan ever, so it may seem biased, but trust me when I say that a lot of the stuff that I've reviewed for this clan and a lot of the other clans are totally not biased. It's totally based on what I see as opposed to a card fighter. It's just opposed to what I see. And what I see from this clan is some ridiculous plays that involve nuking the field. That's what I see out of this. So, this has been Solid Pleasant from Team O.M.G. Vanguard, this has been the Narukami clan, and this is Solid Pleasant signing off.